Dinosaur, written by Stephen Llewelyn and performed by Chris Barrie. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell to keep up to date with the latest installments.
Stars. The universe viewed from Earth is as through cellophane. The only way to truly see space is from space. No metaphor can truly carry the majesty. It must be seen, it must be experienced, and Tim was agog. Glancing back down at his comm, he scrolled back to an unfinished document. So this is what freedom feels like. Part of me feels selfish, like I've left everyone in hell. Save. He copied his first entry of the voyage to his private diary. Not wishing to miss a thing for the next few minutes, he folded his tablet back down to the size of a personal comm once more and slipped it into a pocket. He was glad he chose that moment to look up. Grinning, he considered his change in fortunes. Whatever came next, he would embrace it, would make it his own. He had to. Everyone was strapped into their seats for the last anxious seconds. Natalie held on tightly to Reva, hardly seeming to even breathe as she studied the view screen. In the top left corner, a giant number 10 appeared, frozen in place. Presently, the countdown commenced, and people began calling out, with others joining in like the countdown to New Year's. Suddenly, everyone in the place was roaring, 4, 3, 2, 1, yeah! Space appeared to distort slightly, followed by a huge bang from somewhere aft, but very definitely within the ship. The new world rocked once. Neither Tim nor any of his fellow travellers had ever voyaged through a wormhole before, so the distortion and far-off bang was unsettling, but not instantly terrifying. However, as klaxons and warning lights came to life all around them, someone panicked, and like dye in water, it spread through the group was fast and absolute. The view screen still showed space in front of the ship, but anyone keeping their wits amongst the chaos erupting around them would have seen the distortion replaced by stars which were different. Few noticed as panic continued to rip through the passengers like a second wave of the explosion. Major Ford White, an ex-US Marine in command of pod security, uncoupled his belt and jumped out of his seat, calling his 10-strong team about him. Quickly, he charged his people with restoring order. White's composure was a balm of sorts, and they soon began reseating the passengers while he strode calmly but purposefully over to a comms panel to call the bridge. Although Tim travelled with his mother, for some reason which made no sense to him, their allocated seats were in different rows. He couldn't imagine why some soulless official would split them up for such a life-changing event, and subsequently, he was left all alone in a crowd, gaping. Even Reva had bolted, but worse, Mars was gone too. "I am cursed," he muttered. Mere seconds after Captain Douglas instructed Lieutenant Singh to engage the wormhole drive, calmly anticipating the usual ripple of distortion across space through the viewport, the bridge crew was shocked by an explosion from somewhere behind them. Douglas and Commander Baines gripped the arms of their command seats, sharing a split-second look of astonishment. "What the—" they said in unison before years of training immediately reasserted, and they got down to business. Baines scrolled through the ship's systems on her touchscreen, looking for the cause of the explosion, while Douglas demanded reports from all departments. She arrived at an answer just as a call came back from engineering, reporting the complete destruction of the wormhole drive. "It's taken part of the hull with it, and she's venting atmosphere." The voice sounded very young and very distraught. "Seal the hatches!" the captain bellowed. There was no time to consider anyone's feelings at this point. "We are on it, Captain." This second voice was unmistakably that of the chief engineer, Hiro Nasaki, and gradually the rumble felt throughout the ship quieted, eventually stopping altogether. "The breach is sealed, but we've taken heavy damage to the hull. It's difficult to ascertain the full extent of it yet. The wormhole drive is a smoking hole in a room that's mostly gone, sir. Douglas let out a breath that he had not realized he was holding. Secure everything you can, Chief. Do you have casualties? Hero paused. When he eventually spoke again, his voice cracked a little. Mostly cuts and bruises, but we've lost Mario, sir. Oh, God, no, said Douglas quietly. Is Giorgio okay? Hero spoke quietly, clearly trying not to be overheard. Physically okay, sir, but I think he's in shock. What about Lloyd? He's not here, sir. I don't know his condition. Douglas ordered Lieutenant Singh to get a medical team down to engineering, stat. Hang on, Hero. Dr. Flanagan and his team are en route, and I'll be down myself as soon as I can leave the bridge. Douglas, out. As he signed off, Baines gave him a fearful look. Did I hear Mario? Douglas nodded. Commander, can you get down to embarkation, please? Those people are likely to be frantic and will need calming. Lieutenant, hold our position here. I'm heading for engineering. And Lieutenant? Singh looked around from his console. Yes, sir? Douglas pointedly looked out of the viewport. Try and work out where here is. There's a good fellow. Singh looked stunned, but nodded and bent to his task. Douglas turned to see Commander Baines already leaving the bridge, summoning the New World security team to meet her in embarkation. Chin up, everybody, he said. I'll be in engineering. Or what's left of it, he added in the privacy of his own mind. As the captain left, Lieutenant Singh answered the frantic buzzing from the comm system. Bridge, he stated. A surprisingly calm American voice responded. This is Major Ford White speaking from embarkation. Things are mostly under control here, but folks are very concerned. We could really use a sitrep if possible. Singh checked his readouts. Yes, sir, he replied. This is Lieutenant Singh. The ship has sustained damage to engineering. We suspect some kind of malfunction leading to an explosion at the moment, and are working to bring things back online as quickly as possible. There should be no immediate threat to safety. Commander Baines is on her way down to you with our own security team to help calm the situation, and the captain has left for engineering. More as we get it, Major. Please stand by. Thank you, Lieutenant. White, out. Presently, Baines entered embarkation at the head of a trio with the Sarge and Private Jones. Quickly assessing the situation, she nodded her approval of White's efforts to restore calm. Good job, Major, she said, approaching him. I thought it would be worse in here, thank you. White nodded acknowledgement. Is it bad, Commander? Bad enough, Ford, she replied bleakly. Better get our game faces on for the passengers, though. She stepped up onto the small dais in front of the huge view screen, turning to address a century of frightened faces. The crowd were getting restless, as Baines held up her hands for a quiet which was not forthcoming. Silence! Bellowed Sergeant John Jackson. Shut up and listen to the officer's report! Like a bucket of cold water, his commands snapped the passengers out of their agitation, and the auditorium fell still at last. Commander Baines toggled the microphone concealed within the dais so that she could speak calmly and be heard by all, without the need to raise her voice. Taking a deep breath to center herself, she began. There has been an incident in engineering. An incident? Several of her nervous audience spoke in shock and disbelief. An explosion, she corrected herself. Clearly there was only so much sugar that she would be able to coat this with. Damage control crews led by Captain Douglas are working on the problem as we speak, and there is no immediate danger to your safety or the ship. Immediate danger? A booming male voice with an American accent cut across her. What the hell does that mean? Baines cursed under her breath for that slip. Composing herself, she tried again. Please try to remain calm, sir. I simply mean that the ship is still flying, our engines are all in the green, and life support is unaffected. At the moment, it seems we've been fortunate. Seems? Said the same man, raising an eyebrow. Baines grimaced slightly, feeling as if she was on trial. Ship's systems are optimal. All we know for sure at this stage is that there was a problem with the wormhole drive. I also have to report, with great sadness, that one of the New World's engineers, 25-year-old Mario Bacchini, was killed in the blast, and another of our engineers is currently missing. A search is underway for the missing man, but we remain hopeful that he'll be found safe. Unfortunately, Mr. Bacchini was our foremost expert on the wormhole drive, so it may take us a little while to work out exactly what has happened. Before Baines had chance to add anything further, the American called out again.
How far are we from Mars?
Damn, she thought. There goes any hope of fielding that one later. We're unsure of our coordinates at the moment, sir. The problem has necessitated a reboot of many ship systems, but we'll keep you all informed as we know more.
Pfft,
her antagonist scoffed. I'm sorry, Mr.
Bernstein! Hank Bernstein!
I'm sorry, Mr. Bernstein. We have to ask you all to remain patient for now. The crew are working as hard as they can to find answers for us all, so that we can either continue our journey or return to Earth. A barrage of questions flew from all quarters, forcing Baines to raise her voice. We will keep you appraised as we know more. Please, I must urge you to remain calm and be patient. Now, I'm sure you will all understand that I have critical duties. Major White will liaise with the bridge throughout the next few hours as more news becomes available. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. With that, she stepped down and walked past the Major, making for the exit. Oh, thanks for that, he said sardonically. Sorry, Ford, Baines replied quietly as she passed. We'll try and let you know as much as we can, as soon as we can. Hopefully I can get the man in the big chair to come down then. I think they might eat me alive if I try and stall again. White smiled lopsidedly.
Until later, Commander.
Baines flipped a casual salute as she strode towards the Sarge standing near the exit. Sarge, post the door. Ensure all the passengers remain in one place and see if you can ask Mary to organize some refreshments for everyone.
Yes, Mom.
The Sarge saluted as Baines left. Douglas was full of trepidation as he approached engineering. He hailed the bridge.
Singh here, sir.
The response came back immediately.
Sandy, can you stop these wretched klaxons and flashing lights? They're making me anxious.
The noise stopped, and the lights lowered in their intensity.
Better, sir?
Douglas nodded.
Much, thank you, Lieutenant.
However, the sight which greeted him as he stepped into engineering made his heart sink. The hatch through to wormhole drive control was sealed, but much fire and smoke damage was evident across the whole bulkhead, along with some twisting to the hatch itself. We were lucky, Captain. Douglas turned, surprised to find his chief engineer, Lieutenant Nasaki, standing right behind him, also eyeing the damage.
How so?
Asked Douglas. The hatch is twisted, but we got it to seal, explained Hiro, smoke staining his uniform and a smudge of grease across his brow. If it hadn't made a full connection, we'd have lost the whole of engineering and been left a dead duck in space, sir. Poor Mario wasn't so lucky, though. Douglas noticed Mario's twin brother, Giorgio, slumped in a corner with his head in his hands. A wave of sadness washed over him as he studied the young man, who hardly seemed to move or even breathe. Lieutenant David Flanagan, the ship's doctor, knelt by his side and spoke quietly, but he gave no response. Another man stood next to doctor and patient. Justin Smith, the ship's nurse, caught the captain's eye and shook his head sadly. Flanagan stood a little stiffly, and noticing Douglas, came over. "Bad business, James," he said without preamble.
"How is he?"
asked Douglas. Flanagan glanced back to where the young man sat, still unmoving. "Physically, he's fine. A couple of minor contusions, but psychologically..." He shrugged. "It's been a shock, James. Time will tell."
"Where's Dr. Schultz?"
Douglas asked. "I sent it down to embarkation in case anyone needed a Band-Aid or a hand held," Flanagan drawled. Douglas looked at him in surprise. Flanagan took his meaning. I know, but she would have been even less popular down here. This man has really suffered. The civvies can make do with Heidi. She is a brilliant doctor and surgeon. Anyhow, It'll be character building for them. At the very least, they'll think twice before calling by sickbay for no good reason." Douglas raised an eyebrow. "Aye, her detachment brings a whole new meaning to the word surgical. Let's hope they survive Flight Officer Schultz's tender care," he commented wryly. "Well, I'm damn certain they won't complain about her looks," answered Flanagan. Replied Douglas, considering. "It's when she looks back at you you're in trouble." He glanced towards crewman Boccini, still crumpled in the corner, and any humour left him completely. "I'd be grateful if you'd take care of young Mr. Boccini personally, Dave. He's going to need our support. All right if I talk to him?" "Yes, in fact, it may be that what he really needs is to get back on the horse. He can grieve later, in his own time, at his own speed. Play it by ear, James." The two men nodded to one another and went their separate ways. Douglas approached to kneel beside the anguished young man. "Giorgio?" he inquired gently. "Georgie." With enormous effort of will, the engineer lifted his head to look up, bleary-eyed. "He's gone, Captain. Mario." He tailed off, choked. "I'm so sorry, my friend," replied Douglas kindly. "But I need you now. All the souls on this ship need you. Do you think you can help me?" Giorgio roughly batted the tears from his face and nodded as resolutely as he could manage. "I'll do my best, Captain. Mario would expect me to get this ship home." Douglas smiled sadly, patting the engineer supportively on the shoulder. "Thank you, Georgie," he said. Getting to his feet, he offered a hand to pull the younger man up after him, and calling Hero over to them, faced both engineers. "Has anyone heard from Jeff?" he asked. Hero shook his head. "No one's seen Lieutenant Lloyd for a while, sir. I put a call out just before the jump but didn't get a response. As all systems were primed and we were about to open a wormhole, he faltered, suddenly realizing that an irritating breakdown in communication may have signified something more. "Should I have stopped the ship, Captain?" Douglas took measure of the two, apparently all that remained of his four-man engineering staff. How young they are to have to deal with all this loss and calamity, he thought, but quickly brushed it aside. These were some of the best engineers NASA could buy, and as he put a hand on each of their shoulders, he poured his faith into them. "Maybe, but let's move on from that for now. We're in the SH-1T here, boys. We need to know exactly what happened and what state we're in to continue our journey." He was encouraged to see Hero and Giorgio straighten, the engineer's pride sparking to life in their eyes. Surprisingly, it was Giorgio who spoke first. "Captain, I suggest we send an EVA team out to check the external damage and, if possible, get into wormhole drive control to see what happened." Douglas nodded his assent. He was about to speak when Hero added, "Among the pod passengers there's a Captain Gleason. I spoke to him in the restaurant last night. It was late and we were the only ones in there, so we shared a table. Gleason is an Australian Army explosives expert, seconded to the mining team on a 5-year tour. I suggest we get him suited up as part of the EVA team, sir." Douglas stared at the chief for a moment and blinked. "Sir?" Hero inquired, hesitantly. "Explosives expert?" asked Douglas. "Hero, what are you telling me?" Hero hesitated, glancing at Giorgio next to him. "The wormhole drive didn't blow itself up, sir," he said flatly. Giorgio looked at him sharply, also catching the chief's meaning. "Hero?" he asked. Hero looked from his junior to his captain and sighed. "Gentlemen, Mario treated that drive like a baby. There's no way I'm ever going to believe that he messed things up or sabotaged it." Focusing on Douglas, he continued, "The only other explanation is a bomb, sir." Douglas rocked back slightly as the enormity of this revelation hit him. "But we checked the ship rigorously prior to takeoff, both before and after the passengers boarded, as policy. I don't see how—" He tailed off, slumping a little as a second stark realization struck full force. "You're telling me that we have a saboteur or even a terrorist on board as part of this mission?" "That would be my guess, Captain. agreed Hero.
You're saying he was murdered?
Giorgio blurted out, the strain in his voice obvious.
Someone killed Mario on purpose?
Douglas straightened up, the ship's captain again. He squeezed the young man's shoulder in an attempt to reassure.
We don't know anything for certain yet, but if that is indeed what happened, we'll find who did it and they will pay. That I promise you. If we're going to do this, I need you to stay focused, Georgie, huh?
The Italian stiffened, eyes cold with sudden anger. I'll get the EVA suits checked out, sir, and we'll be ready for your team at Airlock 1 in 30 minutes. Saluting, he turned and left. Douglas and Nasaki watched him go with a mixture of sympathy and respect. I think you'll need to head the team, Hero. You okay with that? It may be... He searched for the best words, but gave up and just spoke his mind. It may be that whatever is left of Mario is in that room. I know, sir. No choice. It has to be me. I can't put Giorgio in there. He nodded to the captain and left to prepare. Douglas opened a channel to Commander Baines on his personal comm. Baines here, sir. The response came back in a heartbeat.
Jill, I need you down in engineering. Bring the Sergeant Jones with you. Also, can you ask Major White to spare us 2 trusted men from his security detail as well?
Sir?
That's the order, Commander.
On the double, sir. Within a few minutes, Douglas heard running, booted feet on deck plates, and Baines entered engineering at the head of a 4-man security detail. Douglas nodded to her before speaking to Sergeant Jackson.
Sarge, secure this room. No one saving myself, the commander, Lieutenant Nasaki, or crewman Baccini is to enter.
A question crossed Jackson's face. Douglas saw it. Sarge?
And Lieutenant Lloyd, sir?
He asked. Douglas stared the Sarge in the eye. Only the 4 names I just gave you, Sergeant. With the blank eyes front of the professional soldier, the Sarge saluted.
Yes, sir.
Also, I've another duty for you, Sarge. Get Jones and one of Major White's men to find Lieutenant Lloyd and bring him to the bridge. There are some questions which need answers. Organize Nurse Smith to go along with them too, just in case he's been injured. He looked at Private Dowie Jones directly. Private, when you find Lieutenant Lloyd, make sure he knows that his immediate presence is required on the bridge, and that is an order from the captain. Tell him I'll brook no pouncing about, and you can use those exact words. Is that clear? Jones nodded. Understood, sir.
I'll call Smith back from the infirmary to join you, the Sarge added. Stay as a 3-man team, don't split up, and remember, he's an officer and a gentleman until we're told otherwise.
Yes, Sarge, replied Jones, and the 2 men left quickly. Douglas and Baines also left engineering, making their way back to the bridge. The captain brought his first officer up to speed on what little he knew and what he further suspected. Get a 3-man EVA team to join Hero at Airlock 1, please, Jill, and make sure an Aussie captain named Gleason is among them. He's our main man on explosives, apparently. Yes, sir, replied Baines. I'll see you back on the bridge when I'm done. Douglas was suddenly alone with his ship. He knew her every nook and corner like the back of his hand, yet she was somehow changed, subtly but intrinsically. She had been violated, and as her captain, Douglas felt it like a physical hurt. He couldn't help feeling that it was like visiting one of the New World's sister ships, where everything was familiar, but not the same at all.
Oh, damn it!
He raged, storming down the empty corridor.
It's not even been half an hour!
Dinosaur, written by Stephen Llewelyn and performed by Chris Barrie. New installments uploaded each week. Subscribe for more. Visit the link in the description for free New World companion stories, available for download as ebooks.